Hello, everybody. Hello, Lou.
How are we doing today?
Good. Welcome, all of you. Today, we're going to be doing episode 149, and we're going to be talking about chapter 14, verses 11, 12, and 13. Last time, as I told you, 11 talks about sattva, and 12 talks about rajas, and 13 talks about tamas. Very interesting, and it's necessary to understand this so that we can recognize how these gunas, these personality traits of ours, nature, affects us in our day-to-day life and affects our progress towards spirituality. So let's start with verse 11. It says, Krishna says, when the light of wisdom streams forth through all the gates in this body, then it may be known that sattva indeed is prominent. So the light of wisdom showing through a person, an individual, suggests that sattva is prominent in that individual. And people have often said that when you really meet somebody who is a self-realized person, you feel like there's a light around that person or a halo around his or her head, or that his body gives off this aura all around the body of something very peaceful, very sweet, very nice. And you know that when you sit next to a person who is extremely self-composed, Sattvic, just sitting next to him, you start to feel calmer. You start to feel something, opposed to somebody who is restless and constantly agitated. Sitting next to him, you feel like a monkey jumping up and down in a cage. But curiously, what he says here is, when the light of wisdom streams forth all the openings of the body, all the gates in the body, he calls them. Sometime we can talk about all the gates that the scriptures tell us we have. Very, very interesting. But when the light of wisdom shows through, he says, you know that this sattva is prominent. So it sounds like he's saying that when a person becomes sattvic, then wisdom shines through every aperture in the body or through the body. He's actually saying the reverse. Because what that means is that each one of us has within us the Atman, the self, which is luminous, which is of wisdom, luminous of wisdom. When you have sattva in yourself, then you've gotten rid of the rajas and tamas. So you understand that there's sattva, rajas, and tamas inside each one of us. The rajas and tamas cover everything, just like if you have a brass pot completely covered and it's oxidized and by something. Rajas and tamas oxidize that, and sattva is blocked. So also is the wisdom, the luminosity of the Atman is blocked. When you remove that rajas, when you remove the tamas through effort and understanding, then sattvic person starts to shine, not because the sattva brings the wisdom, but because the Atman within starts to shine because you've become more sattvic and you've gotten rid of rajas and tamas. By the time we get through this and the next episode, you'll understand that a lot more clearly. So just bear with me if you don't understand what I said. Now, a sattvic person has qualities that are far greater than rajasic qualities or tamasic qualities. He has clarity, like laser sharp focus. The world is in sharp focus for him. He's insightful. The Gita says, he who sees, he sees. So many of us think we see. Many of us think we understand, we have clarity, but we don't. The person who has sattva, who has this insightfulness, when he sees something, he sees it. So keep that in mind. That person's perception is sharp. His insight is great. His action is exemplary. His thoughts are very clear. When he decides he's going to do something, he knows exactly how to do it, what the plan is. He's dexterous. He's efficient. His emotions are chaste and controlled by the intellect. And he appears to be a pillar of strength. He is efficient in anything he does Whatever he does it with great dexterity. It sounds great, right? All of these
Yep.
qualities of a sattvic person. Whereas Rajasic people are all full of excitement. They run, run, run. They hurry. They want to, but the productivity is not as great. Why? Because there's less result, because his concentration is mostly on the fruit of his actions. Whereas Tamasic people, they don't do any work. They're lazy. They just sit back and do very little. A Rajasic person falls prey to his emotions, and therefore he has a weak personality. A Tamasic person has the least amount of emotions. His life, her life is dull, insipid. So, Sattva does not produce the self or Atman, but having Sattva, the Atman is able to shine through. That's basically what this verse is saying. Sattva acts through the body and through the mind and the intellect. We said that when he acts through the body, when Sattva acts through the body, that person becomes precise in his actions, dynamic. There's a production of action, efficient action, selfless action, key, selfless. He's doing things for others, not for himself, no selfishness. That selfless action causes an upward cycle. Selfless action produces more sattva produces more selfless action, and it goes upwards that way. It's always for the benefit of others. He will, and therefore, since he's doing it without that mental stress and strain, since you're doing it for somebody else, you don't really feel like I have to do this like this way or I'm going to get something bad. That produces a mental peace. That mental peace prevents you from getting tired. So such a person, a sattvic person, acts effortlessly. His mind is in complete control of his intellect, so there's no mental effect, no anxiety, no tension. Whereas a Rajasic person has mental effort associated with his action. So the mind is steady in a sattvic person, but the feelings are completely under his control, and he's not victimized by his emotions. So, friends, that is verse number 11, the description of a sattvic person. Verse 12 says, this is a description of Rajas: greed, activity, undertaking of works and projects, unrest, craving, longing. These arise when Rajas predominates. I think we've described this enough, but I will still go through it again because I cannot repeat it often enough for you to get it through your understanding. Unchecked desires produce greed. When you have a desire for something, even if you get it, you say, I got it now, but I want more. And unchecked desires produce greed. Keep that in mind. And because of that desire being unchecked, a person who is Rajasic constantly has feverish activity. From the time he wakes up in the morning, the difference between a Rajasic person and a Tamasic person is a Rajasic person, which is probably the majority of us listening to this, wakes up and starts to immediately say, what do I need to do? What do I need to go? Where do I need to? All of this is to gain something, an act to acquire, to do something that you think is going to get you something. So that feverish activity is a characteristic of Rajasic person. He constantly undertakes some action or the other, or some work, perpetually. His mind has constantly remaining disturbed with unfulfilled desires and anxiety to gain more. It's always about acquisition or getting into a different position so that he can acquire more and more from this world. He craves for his desires to be fulfilled and for the fruit of his action. Whatever his action is, he wants the fruit. And because of that, his life becomes tense and fitful and fretful. Rajasic action is associated with worry and anxiety, excitement, craving for something, and when you act, there's attachment to the action. What does that mean? I have to do this. You're attached. I have to do that. You're attached. Worrying constantly. What else can I do? What else can I do? While acting, there's anxiety for the fruit. And once you get the fruit, the next desire for the next fruit or the same fruit or more of the same fruit keeps coming up. So that's Rajas. Verse 13 says, and this is about tamas, darkness, inertness, heedlessness, and delusions. These arise when tamas predominates. A tamasic person knows nothing about Atman, Brahman, or life. He sees unrighteousness as righteousness and has no mission in life other than to fulfill his own needs and maybe those of those immediately around him, like his family. Does that sound like somebody we know, Lou, who just left office after 4 years being there?
Sure.
So unrighteousness becomes righteousness. He has no problems telling lies and cheating and becoming unrighteous as long as his own needs and the needs of those immediately around him are met. He has no mission in life other than to fulfill his own desires, greed, need. He is not looking to serve other people. Rarely does he serve other people. In fact, he may say that those people who die in combat, he says, well, what did they get out of it? He could never understand that somebody would fight a war for his country or for his countrymen if he's not getting something out of it. He becomes heedless and irresponsible. Rajas and tamas, Rajas creates desire, anxiety, and unrest. Tamas makes one feel inert, deluded, and heedless. Tamas is ignorance, laziness, procrastination, heedlessness, uncaring about the consequences, such as speeding, gambling, using drugs, procrastinating, not doing any work, or not doing any effort at all. So that's verse 13. And next time, what we'll do is from 14 onwards. In the meantime, if you need to send me an email, Lou and I have our own email now, which is Gita, Gita, Memoirs of a Psychiatrist, all one, no space, no lines, Gita, then Memoirs, Memoirs, of a Psychiatrist, Psychiatrist @gmail.com. Sorry.
I saw you cheating there. You had to look along, didn't you? Or were you checking up on me?
No, I had to look for myself. Yeah,
that would have been a good checkup because I need it too.
Yeah, but you only have to type that in one time into your computer, and then the computer will remember anytime you want to send me an email thereafter. A lot of people feel that I'm not able to get back to them. So, and people listen on Facebook, on YouTube, on various podcasts. So it's better if we just keep it to one thing, if at all possible. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Lou, were you saying something?
Nope. I just wanted to remind everybody, if you're watching on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, if you want to take us along in the car, if you're listening on our audio only, we've got a Facebook page, Gita Memoirs of a Psychiatrist. So make sure you can find us all the ways that you can find us.
Thank you, friends. See you next time.